We are now recording.
Thanks, Landon. Good morning, everyone. Happy Thursday. I am Jenny McCollum, the Chief Procurement Officer for JEA and the Chair of the Awards Committee meeting. I'd like to call the September 24th, 2020 meeting to order. We have a quorum with Stephen Datz, Alan McElroy, Joe Arfano, Steve Tooten, and Wayne Young. OGC is represented by David Mickett, and Budget is represented by Lori Whitmer. So we're all here and accounted for. Just read through our WebEx statement. So in an effort to slow the spread of COVID-19 virus and to encourage social distancing, Governor DeSantis issued Executive Order 20-69, allowing local governments to hold public meetings using communications media technology rather than in a physical location. In keeping with the executive order, the JEA Awards Committee meeting is being held via WebEx teleconference, which allows interested persons to view and participate in the meeting remotely. Individuals who are having technical difficulty accessing the meeting or during the meeting should contact Lynn Ricks at 665-8621 for assistance. In the event multiple people are having technical difficulties that preclude them from attending or accessing the meeting will be recessed or postponed until the technical issues can be remedied. This meeting is being recorded and the minutes are being taken. Therefore, any individual who speaks during the meeting should do so clearly and slowly to ensure they are heard and understood for recording purposes. Participants shall, regardless of how they are accessing the meeting, keep their microphones on mute at all times when not speaking. Our meeting host, Landon, will have the capability to mute any microphone that is transmitting sound, that is causing feedback, or that is otherwise disruptive to the meeting. Each person must wait to be recognized by the meeting host before speaking, and if people attempt to speak out of turn or talk over one another, they will be removed by the meeting host. Each time an individual speaks during the meeting, please first state your name so those dialing in can identify the speakers, and members of the public must state their name each time they make a comment. For all awards committee meetings, the public comment portion occurs at the beginning of the meeting, and all public comments should pertain only to the items on the agenda and are limited to 3 minutes in duration. The agenda and associated materials can be accessed through the JEA website under Procurement, and we have a tab that is called Awards, Meeting, Agendas, and Minutes. Members of the public may submit their comment by email in advance of the meeting or may log in or dial into the meeting to speak during the public comment portion. Individuals who are unable to access the meeting or who wish to submit their comments in advance may do so by submitting them via email to Lynn Ricks, and her email address is rixlw@jea.com. Public comments submitted by email must be received no later than 10:10 a.m. on the date of the meeting. Our public comments that are submitted by email will be read into the record during the public comment portion of the meeting, and individuals calling in will be given an opportunity to comment one at a time and in an orderly fashion based off the meeting host recommendation. So all public comments will be given equal consideration regardless of the manner in which they are submitted. And this recording will be found at the same website that I stated earlier after the meeting has concluded. So I will pass it over to Landon to take us through public comment.
Good morning, everyone. Once again, this is Landon Todd, and for those that are new to the WebEx technology, let me give you a brief overview of the controls. If you're joining us via the desktop interface or a smart device, such as a smartphone or tablet, you may move around the screen and will see a series of buttons at the bottom. The very first one that you may notice looks like a red microphone with a slash through it. If it is red, it means you are muted and will be on mute for the majority of the meeting, unless recognized to speak. If you're recognized to speak or are asked to provide comment, you may click on that button and it will turn dark gray or black. This will mean that you are unmuted and people can hear you. I do ask that you use the mute option to mute your line when you're not speaking. This will allow us to reduce the amount of background noise and have the most productive meeting possible. Also, if you'd like to see who is participating in today's meeting, you can look over 3 more buttons to the right and find an icon that looks like a person. If you click on that, it will bring up the participant list. If you're on a mobile device, it will pull up in front of everything, and if you joined on your desktop machine, it will come up on the right side of your screen. This will allow you to see a long list of individuals who have joined today's meeting. Also, I have enabled the chat capability. If you touch your screen or scroll next to the person icon, you may notice an icon that looks like a caption bubble. If you click on that, it will bring up the chat window. Please remember that this meeting is being recorded, included in the chat session, and I ask that you please be professional. But if you run into any difficulties, you can chat me directly if you would like, or you may type comments to everyone. Now, during today's meeting, when presentations are shared, you may desire to zoom in to more easily read the content. Within the WebEx Toolbar, located on the left side, you will notice 3 key options. The first is the icon with a plus positive indicator. This will allow you to easily zoom in on the content on your display. Now, the second icon with a minus negative indicator will allow you to reverse and zoom out. And lastly is the icon with 4 arrows expanding, which will allow you to maximize today's presentations to your current WebEx window. Now, due to circumstances resulting from COVID-19, the historic number of employees are rapidly transitioning to remote work. WebEx meetings have never been more vital for staying connected. Now, for some users, meeting experiences may be impacted due to strain on service providers, causing internet and phone service degradation. Now, here are some tips you can take to get the best meeting possible experience. Number 1, close your background applications. Even if you're not using them, applications on your device are using precious resources. During today's meeting, close any applications or browser sessions that you're not using. Number 2, switch to call-in on the audio. If your internet audio or video experience or the call me back feature does not work, you can keep collaborating. Call in using the dial-in numbers in today's meeting invitation to join via a cell phone or landline. Number 3, hardwire your workstation. Depending on your location or how many people are using the same Wi-Fi around you, you may see slower speeds on Wi-Fi than on a wired Ethernet connection to your computer. And lastly, we are here to help. Contact the JEA WebEx support team if you're having any difficulty at webexsupport@jea.com. Now, for public comments, we will be using the raised hand feature. If you're using the WebEx client, this feature is located within the participant window. At the top of the list, you will notice your name. It will be visible, and to the right will be a gray icon that looks like a hand. If you click it, it will turn blue, letting me know that you'd like to be recognized for comment. Now, for those that may have called in directly, there are 2 additional ways you can notify me that you'd like to be recognized to speak. The first is by pressing *3 on your phone. This will raise your hand, and then you may proceed with pressing *6 to unmute your line. Now, if you unmute your line, please state your first and last name so everyone may hear who is speaking before you proceed with your comment. Now, as we go through this meeting, I am the moderator and have the capability to mute everyone's line, but I will only do so to make sure the meeting runs smoothly. Now, as it is 10 minutes after, we will now proceed with public comment section of today's meeting. I will ask Lynn whether any public comments were provided by email that will need to be read into the record. Lynn?
This is Lynn Rex. There's no public comment.
Thank you. We will now proceed with the WebEx technology as the time to go ahead and proceed with public comments with the raised hand feature. If you would, go ahead and activate the raised hand feature now. Okay. If you are unable to raise your hand, you may press *3 or type comments to activate and let us know that you would like to be recognized for comments for today's meeting. Seeing none, Jenny, I'm going to go ahead and pass it over to you. Thank you.
Thanks, Landon. All right, so let's get started. We have on today's regular agenda items 1 through 10. They've all been reviewed by Procurement and Budget and are ready for the Awards Committee review. As usual, we will go through each one of these awards individually. I will ask for comments and questions. Once that is done, I'll ask for the committee to give me a motion to approve each award individually in a second. Once we've done that, I'll do a roll call through the entire committee, asking them for their approval for each item. So we've got the first item are the minutes from the meeting from September 3rd. So we haven't met in quite some time. Welcome back. So if we have any questions or comments from the meetings from September 3rd, please let me know. If not, a motion to approve and second would be great.
Jenny, this is Alan. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes.
Stephen Datt,
Thanks,
second.
Alan. Thanks, Stephen. I'll do a roll call through the committee, starting with Alan McElroy.
Approved.
Stephen Datt.
Approved.
Joe Arfano.
Approved.
Steve Tootin.
Approved.
And Wayne Young.
Approved.
Thank you. Award item number 2 is an invitation to negotiate. This is for our miscellaneous electrical items for JEA inventory stock. And we have we went out to solicit pricing for 622 items, primarily used to support the operations of JEA and can be best described as our just general electrical items, ranging from meter locking rings to bushings to capacitor banks. When we looked at the overall spend for the last 12 months, the commodity spend for all of these items was about $1.3 million. We went out to bid and we received 6 responses. And you can see we've got a list of the awardees. So what we did for this one, the basis of award would be that they were the total lowest cost provider for each respective item. So we're looking at each item individually, 622 of them. And so we resulted in an award to Stuart Irby in the amount of $485,268.97. Westco Distribution, Inc. in the amount of $382,770.20. Annixter, Inc. was in the amount of $136,345.57. Gresco Supply, Inc. Is in the amount of $123,225.38. Inglewood Electrical Supply is the award amount is $82,539.19. And lastly, World Electric Supply in the amount of $40,000, $21.18. This is the total award amount is for all of the recommended awardees is $1,250,170.49. So when you combine them all together, that is our total, which is approximately what we spend or what we had historically spent the last 12 months. So you'll see this is only for a year. There are no renewal options here. And just from past history, just to give you a little bit of background, over the last 12 months, these items were purchased through either spot buy purchases or blanket purchase agreements with 21 different vendors. So here we're trying to take these different, the efforts that procurement and the business are putting in to source these individually on spot buys, bring it to a blanket purchase agreement to reduce the administrative time and cost it takes to procure these. So we're going, from 22 vendors down to 6 for, primarily the most of these items. I'll just note that 572 of the items are what we are putting on these contracts for the 6 vendors. There was about 50 items that no vendor submitted pricing for, or if they did, they didn't meet our lead time requirements. So we'll continue to spot by those individually, but we're reducing quite the load off of our internal teams by doing this. We are seeing a small increase of about 1.76% by aggregating the spend. And this is for them to hold their pricing for an entire year, which from a spot buy perspective, if you just go to them, they can give you whatever price they have at the time, but making them hold their price for a year does add a little bit of risk to them. And so we feel this is, more than reasonable for the amount of time that we put in from an administrative cost standpoint to procure these individually. So I will pause there. And just as a note, you can see on the next, before I ask for questions, you can see on the next page, we track 2 different savings. We'll track our total cost difference, which is we'll look at our current costs with our new costs, and it'll either go up or down, and we track those savings or increases accordingly. And it goes either towards or against our total savings for the year. And then we'll also track our total sourcing savings, which is basically anything that procurement can do, from like a BAFO savings or a negotiated savings, anything that if procurement hadn't used their skill set to work with the vendors to reduce pricing in some way, we would have paid more money to contract with them. So here we see a total cost difference, which is an increase. So you'll see a deduction in our savings of about $22,000, and then the total sourcing savings was about $4,600. So if we hadn't asked for BAFOs here, we would have paid an additional $4,600. So I will pause now and see if you guys have any questions.
Jenny, Steve Tootin. Most of these items, these miscellaneous electrical items, generally speaking, could any of the vendors, provide most of them, or are they just sort of specialized in certain items, and that's how they figure out from the pricing standpoint? I don't know if that makes sense.
That's a great question. Yeah, no, that's a great question. Kenny, if you want to comment on that, I think you're on the call.
Yeah, Steve, this is actually every one of these individuals that bid here, all these companies, they're actually all just distribution channels. None of them are the manufacturers themselves.
Okay.
Most of them did bid a majority of the items. I don't have the numbers in front of me, but probably the top 2 or 3 different companies, that Stewart Irby, Wesco, Annixter, probably even Gresco. I would say all 3 of them, or all 4 of those companies, are pretty large houses, and I would guess that they bid probably 90+% of all the items that were bid. Some of them are specialized. I mean, you saw where there was 50 of them that didn't bid any of them. There are each one of those companies does have particular agreements that they have with different manufacturers. So some manufacturers allow all distributors to bid. Some manufacturers only allow certain distributors to bid it. And based upon a particular item, maybe only 3 manufacturers make that. Maybe an S&C and Eaton and I don't know, some other widget company. And they would. So only the distributors that represent those brands would bid that item, and then another item, maybe 7 or 8 different manufacturers make a similar type of item. So that one, a wide array of people would be able to bid on that. But on average, there was a lot of competition here, and a lot of people, a lot of these vendors bid a majority of the items on the bid.
Good, thank you. Yeah, that's a good story, I guess, have that many different vendors who can supply most of the needs. So thank you, Kenny. Appreciate the update.
Yeah, no problem at all.
Yeah, this is Stephen. Good job on this one. And I think lead time also is a big factor on this, and having several companies. represented for the same
Yeah.
product.
Yeah, having a firm lead time. So there's several things that suppliers don't really like. They don't like to be committed to a lead time. They like to just deliver things when they like to deliver things. When they can get them in, they don't like to. So that's one thing. And then they also don't like to have their pricing firm. From a JEA perspective, those are two things that we really want. We like to stabilize our pricing, and we also like to ensure that we have a consistent supply chain. So those are two big benefits that we get out of this. In addition to that, we have a particular source that we know that we're going to go to, and we have a particular product that's going to be coming in consistently over the next year. So there's quite a few benefits of going to this as opposed to the spot buy market. When we get into the spot buy market, there's no one that's committed to us. We're at the mercy of what's out there. And in the past, we have seen where one distributor wins it 1 month, and 3 months later, when we needed to place another spot buy because the inventory was depleted out, a new manufacturer comes in with all new products, and the people out in the field sometimes are there's a little bit of a learning curve with the new product and what was the old product, and there's definitely a benefit of having that's hard to quantify, but it is out there whenever we're able to create these types of agreements.
Great. Thanks,
Very
Kenny. Great explanation. And are there any other questions or comments? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve award number 2.
Steve
Stephen
Tooten.
Datz, motion to approve.
And I'll second Steve Tooten.
To Steve, thank you. All right, I'll do a roll call through the entire committee to approve award number 2. I'll start with Stephen Datz.
Approved.
Steve Tooten.
Approved.
Wayne Young.
Approved.
Joe Arfano.
Approved.
And Alan McElroy.
Approved.
Thank you. All right, we'll go to award number 3. This was an invitation to negotiate. These are JEA Fleet Services, forklift maintenance and repair. So this is our preventative and corrective maintenance that will support multiple JEA departments and operations. Just as some history, we've got about 74 forklift assets that's spread across the majority being Toyota or the Raymond brands. This recommended awardee is to Raymond Handling Consultants, LC, in the amount of $355,877.01. This is a 3-year award, and we received 3 different bids, with one of them they submitted a no bid. So 3 bids came in at the time of public bid opening, thought we had good competition, and then when we opened, we realized one of them was a no bid. So ultimately 2 responses here, and you can see the majority of what we do have in our fleet, again, are Toyota and Raymond brands, and those are the 2 that bid. So before, we'll just note that the current contract that has expired and expired earlier this year was with the Southern State Toyota's lift. They were the ones who also bid, but came in higher. And you can just see by the cost of these, again, from the total cost difference, we are seeing a slight increase here over the 3-year period of about $60,000. But from our BAFO process, the total sourcing savings, we would have paid almost $44,000 more than that. So, just from the extra efforts of procurement, that is reducing the new contract cost. These, the new not to exceed amount, they are based off of estimates. This is repair and maintenance services, so we can go off our historical spend here. So that's how we came up with our workbook and putting that together from, just what we can project from a maintenance and just from a maintenance perspective from our preventative and corrective. We also look at how old the fleet is and things of that nature. But these numbers can fluctuate depending on the actual usage of the vehicles, and then future fleet purchases, and then retirements. So the severity of the repairs are more or less, and just if we plan to grow our fleet. So these do fluctuate, but this is the amount that we are estimating for a 3-year amount. Do you guys have any questions or comments?
Jenny, this is Stephen. Just a general question. When did the previous maintenance contract expire, and how was the maintenance and repairs handled to date?
Kenny, do you want to comment on that? Yeah, he'll know all that off the top of his head.
Yeah, I believe that they ended around February or March. The supplier, Southern Toyota Lift, continued to allow us to use their same pricing for that, but we just bought each one of them individually as they needed to be maintained. They would give us an individual quote, and we would purchase that. They didn't want to continue their old contract. You'll see here on their original bid, you see that there's an increase, so we would have been conceptually around $300,000, and their original bid, I want to say it was $550,000. So they needed to substantially increase their rate. Their pricing, their hourly rate was substantially higher of what they were seeing, and they wanted us to, and that's why they would not continue their existing contract. They said that they would work on an individual piece of machine by individual repair needed basis on giving us a quote, and that's how we had purchased it in the in-between period of time until this contract got in place.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, no problem.
Any other questions? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve award number 3.
Joe Arfano, so moved. Wayne Young, second.
Thank you. I'll do a roll call through the entire committee, starting with Joe Arfano.
Approved.
Wayne Young.
Approved.
Alan McElroy.
Approved.
Stephen Datz.
Approved.
And Steve Tootin.
Approved.
Thank you. The next few awards are joint projects. So I'm going to do a pretty good explanation on how the joint projects work with our master agreements, and then the following awards, I'll just kind of give you a high level of the work that's being done, but they flow exactly the same. They're all going to the Florida Department of Transportation. So award number 4 is a joint project to FDOT, and this is Firestone Road to Westcott Boulevard work that is being performed. The project completion on this is December of 2022, and the award amount that we are fronting the Florida Department of Transportation is about $978,222.50. Portions of the existing water main and force main within the project limits will be replaced, and the design consultant has completed the water main, force main, gravity main designs in association with their roadway project and design of their per our JEA standards and specifications. So we've got a existing master agreement with FDOT, and then what will happen is JEA is to prepay them for the estimated value of the construction work prior to the FDOT bidding the project, and so they'll include our portion of the bid in with their bidding requirements, and so we prepay what they think the estimate is, and after receiving the bid amounts, if we have overpaid or underpaid, we then make that adjustment at the time. So I will pause here, and you'll see the next few awards are very similar to this, but just if you have any questions on the master agreement or how this works, you'll see quite a few of these. We like to collaborate with them when we can. It reduces cost to JEA by taking some of the milling and the paving and the road construction, rehab afterwards, after tearing it up. It takes a lot of that cost off of JEA, and so we're required to, replace just our portion and our services that are in their way, but it ultimately allows, a smaller cost to JEA because of it, and they'll pay for that portion. So I'll just pause there and see if you guys have questions.
Penny, this is Wayne. I do have a general question. When construction like this is undertaken by FDOT, normally in addition to water system, there are electrical items that need to be taken care of, moving of telegram poles, et cetera. Is that, if it's not in this contract, is it assumed that there's nothing associated with our electrical interference with the project, or is that something that is done differently under the electrical side?
Is Mike Suleiman on the call? He knows the ins and outs of these projects better than I do. He is. If Michael, if you will chime in here, that would be great. You might be on mute. I can't hear you yet. And your phone might be on mute also, if you unmute from the WebEx.
Michael, this is Landon. Your line is unmuted in WebEx. It would be on your end on your device. This is Landon once again. We're not able to hear you respond quite yet.
Well, I see. No, we can't hear you, Michael. What about Joe Perez? Can you chime in? I know Michael's he's got the most knowledge here, but our category manager can probably answer that question as well.
Jenny, this is Joe Perez. I'm looking at the master agreement, and it's meant to cover all utilities. It's not specific to water utilities. So I want to say that this is for anything that JEA has in the Florida Department of Transportation right away. If they need to relocate or somehow, get our utilities out of the way for their projects, then it's our responsibility to reimburse them for any relocation of our utilities. So as far as I can tell, and I'm not the expert in this, it would cover any utility under, that JEA owns and they're right away.
Thanks, Joe. Michael, we can see your chat. If you can confirm that via chat, then we can, I think that might satisfy Wayne's question. And while we're waiting for that, are there any other questions for this one?
This is Lori Whitmer from Budget, I think to help answer the question. I do not see a lot of capital projects from FDOT on the electric side of the business. Can it happen? Yes, I see some that are closed, but we don't have any currently active, and there just isn't as many as there is on the water side of the business.
Thanks, Lori. Wayne, do you need more information, or do you want us to follow up with you after?
No, I don't need any additional information for this particular project or the subsequent ones. I was just curious just to make sure that there were could be no unexpected costs. But I think I see the difference here where there's a tie-in to planned or pre-planned capital projects that go then to optimize our costs when other projects are being done. So that's good enough. Thanks.
Oh, thank you. And it looks like Michael has also concurred with both Lori and Joe. Any other questions?
Jenny, this is Stephen. I'm just curious in regard to the FDOT prepayment requirement. What's the normal cycle time between us issuing payment to FDOT and them actually receiving bids?
Dan Kruk, do you know the answer to that?
Hi, this is Dan Crooks of Purchasing Agent. Jenny, I'm not sure. I see Michael's chat, and he said typically 3 to 4 months.
Okay.
Okay.
Perfect. Thank you.
All right, thank you.
Any other questions? All great questions, by the way. Thank you. All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve award number 4.
This is Alan. I'll make a motion to approve.
Thanks, Alan. Can I get a second?
Stephen Dat, second.
Thanks, Stephen. I'll do a roll call through the entire committee, starting with Alan McRoy.
Approved.
Stephen Datz.
Approved.
Joe Orfano.
Approved.
Wayne Young.
Approved.
And Steve Tootin. You there, Steve?
Oh, sorry.
You're off mute now. Did you approve?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. All right, award number 5, again, another joint project with FDOT. This one is from Lane Avenue, from Wilson Boulevard to Normandy Boulevard, and this is a water main replacement. The amount of the prepayment is $2,519,692.71, and we are expecting project completion April of 2022. And so this will install, remove, and place out of service portions of our existing water mains within their project limits. Do you guys have any questions or concerns on this one?
One question.
All right, I'll ask. Sure.
I could have asked it the last time, but the FDOT's highway contractor master agreement, I see it's like 20 years old. Are they like open-ended, or do they run for a particular span of time, or just until there's a need to update the master agreement?
Joe, if you've got it in front of you, what is our, I think they're looked at occasionally, but I think they're open-ended from, unless we need to update terms and conditions.
This is Joe Perez. Jenny, the contract is open-ended, evergreen. It doesn't have an expiration date.
Thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. I believe, and not to extend this even longer, but I believe that it's in our chart, it's in the city charter, JEA charter, that we are able to do work with FDOT. And so then the master agreement just puts kind of our terms and conditions in place, but we have an overarching ability to do work with them.
Very good. Thank you.
All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve award number 5.
Steve Tootin, motion to approve.
Thanks, Steve. Can I get a second?
Wayne Young, second.
Thanks, Wayne. I'll do a roll call through the entire committee, starting with Steve Tootin.
Approved.
Wayne Young.
Approved.
Joe Orfano.
Approved.
Alan McRoy.
Approved.
And Stephen Datz.
Approved.
Thank you. Award number 6. This is our last joint project, again with FDOT, and this is widening from I-295 to I-95. The award amount is $1,739,626 with an estimated completion of January of 2024. JEA's water mains, sewer force mains, and gravity sewer mains are within the FDOT project, and this project will replace portions of these pipes within their project limits. Do you guys have any questions or comments?
Jenny, this is Joe Orfano. we talked about this, that these payments are required up front, and some of these are appear to be multi-year projects. Is there a alternate form of payment where we would maybe put up a surety bond and pay over time? I know this probably arrangement's been in place for a long time, but prepaying is a vendor's kind of, and I know it's the FDOT, but I just raised that as a question.
Good question. Michael, have you guys had? I'm sorry, who was?
This is Michael
Who
Suleiman.
was wanting to speak? Oh, we can hear you now. Hi, Michael.
Yes, I'm on the phone now. So, Joe, I heard the question as far as a surety bond versus prepayment. Joe, we are not prepaying this, years in advance, and typically all of our work is being done at the first part because we are underground compared to the road resurfacing. So, we prepay, and that's what's in the DOT agreement. And then we true that up once the actual bids come in, like Jenny was saying, whether it's we get a refund back or we have to pay more because of the bid at the time. But, we are, like I was saying earlier, typically we're only 3 to 4 months ahead of schedule there.
When I see a widening project, I think, and I'm involved with the Better Jacks Finance Committee as well. And those are obviously some of those projects where we're doing jointly with Better Jacks. Those are years. Some of those widening projects could span a couple of years. So hey, if it's 3 to 4 months, I don't have a concern, Michael. I appreciate that clarification.
Sure. Anytime.
Thanks, Michael. Any other questions? All right, I'll ask for a motion to approve award number 6.
Wayne Young.
Go ahead, Liz.
Thank you, Wayne.
Joe Orfano, second.
Thanks, Joe. I'll roll call through the committee, starting with Wayne Young.
Approved.
Joe Orfano.
Approved.
Alan McElroy.
Approved.
Stephen Datz.
Approved.
And Steve Tootin.
Approved.
All right, 3 more awards. Hang in there for me. We've got award number 7. This is a contract increase. This is for our 3-phase transformers that we keep in inventory stock. We have about 20 different types, and their primary application being to change values of the 3-phase voltage and current. This award is, the contract increase is going to Gresco Supply in the amount of $694,658.53. So if you look at the background and the backup to this award, we have awards that have come before the committee previously. This was originally bid and approved by the awards committee back in August of 2019, and it was to WEG Transformers USA in the amount of $2,708,100, and also to Wesco Distribution Inc. in the amount of $449,387. So back in, it was probably 3 months after that, once we were executing the contract with WEG, they came back and were unable to meet some of our terms and conditions and technical not terms and conditions, but when we started talking with them about our contract and the technical specifications, they were unable to meet some of those. And so we basically reduced their contract to 0, and then we went to the bid that we had put out that was competitive, and to replace what their bid was going to be awarded to them, we went and awarded to the next low bidders, which was Gresco Supply, and the majority of it went to Gresco, which was about $2.5 million, and then Annixter got a small portion, about $194,000. So those 2 vendors picked up the items that WEG could not perform, said they could not perform and hold their pricing for after they had learned more about what was required of them. The reason we're asking for the contract increase on this one, and this is just for Gresco, we're increasing their total by this amount, about $700,000, is we've got the 102 items that they contract with us. The usage from what we originally had forecasted when we put the bid out is 42% more than what we had anticipated. And that's largely due to new development work that's come in. And so this will increase the contract just for Gresco and for their 102 different items where we're projecting new development work and, to cover what we have coming up through the expiration of March of 2021. So this will get us through the next 6 months, and then a rebid will happen. Do you have any questions or comments on this one? So the pricing has stayed the same. We're just increasing the amount.
Stephen Datz, motion to approve.
Thanks, Stephen.
Alan McElroy, second.
Can I get a second? Thanks, Alan. We'll do a roll call through the committee. Stephen Datz.
Approved.
Alan McElroy.
Approved.
Joe Arfano.
Approved.
Wayne Young.
Approved.
And Steve Tootin.
Approved.
All right, thank you. We've approved award number 7. All right, award number 8. This was a low bid, straight IFB for steel transmission poles. And this is for our circuits, 915 structures, and it's circuits 915, but those are structures 45 through 49. So this is for the design, fabrication, and the delivery of 5 steel transmission poles and 5 steel caissons, foundations for that circuit 915. CHM Industry, Inc., doing business as Keystone Industries, LP, is the recommended awardee in the amount of $371,503.55. This is a project completion estimated January of 2021. And we received good competition here. We received 6 bids, and the award amount came in less than what we were estimating. So good outcome here. You can see the top 4 were very close in pricing. Any questions or comments? All right, can I get a motion to approve award number 8?
Wayne Young, motion to approve.
Joe Arfano.
Thanks, Wayne. Thanks, Joe. I'll roll call through the committee to approve award number 8. Wayne Young.
Approved.
Joe Arfano.
Approved.
Alan McElroy.
Approved.
Stephen Datz.
Approved.
And Steve Tootin.
Approved.
All right, thank you. We have approved award number 8. Award number 9, this is a sole source for our non-road electrification program. I'm going to spend quite a bit of time talking about this one. This one's really important to JEA. Has actually already been presented to our board. So this is just, as a, heads up as to where the direction of this program is going. And I want to spend some time really talking about, this is a revenue stream for JEA, so I want to spend some time with the details on this. So the scope of work is for JEA's current incumbent, which is ICF Resources, and this is for the non-road electrification program. And so to continue and expand the operations of its current program, this would be what we're doing is a new award. So just some history for this one is we bid this out in the past. We did it, I think, in 14 and 18, and ICF was the only vendor that responded. They're clearly the market leader here. And so from our perspective, from expanding the scope and the project and the program, a sole source was the appropriate way to do that based off of just the history of them being the sole provider, and we think is in the best interest of JEA to move forward. We do have a current contract with them, and that contract still has a year and $1 million remaining, which will be integrated into this new 5-year contract. And what this new 5-year contract is allowing us to do, so it's a growth initiative that promotes the replacement. Our original one is the growth initiative was to replace our fossil fuel powered commercial and industrial equipment with clean, efficient electrical powered equipment. And so we're looking at what we were doing, we're expanding where we're going, and in this award amount of about $16 million, we have $9 million that will be rebates to our customers, which will flow through ICF resources and will not be, will only be utilized when it's time for them to get the rebates. It's kind of it'll happen in real time. It's not like a prepayment up front. So I want to just get on the record. So in the future, this program is expected to accelerate the adoption of the electrical powered equipment and to displace the local emissions of CO2, NOx, and other pollutants by incentivizing large and more complex applications. And again, as stated, this is a newly sustainable revenue stream via the replacement of the fossil fuel powered equipment. Again, I'll give you the exact amount of this award. So the recommended awardee, ICF Resources LLC, and the award amount is $15,818,528. This will be a new 5-year contract for them, starting at the beginning of the fiscal year and ending in September 30th. Let's fix that. If there were 31 days in September, that would take us 1 day less close to Halloween, which is unacceptable. So we'll fix that as an adjustment. So this will expire September 30th of 2025. We do have a 1-year optional renewal, and it should be noted that we have reviewed if there were any JSEB opportunities for this project with our current vendor pool, and there are none. The breakdown of the award amount, so what we will actually be paying in dollars for the facilitation of the contract over 5 years to ICF is $6,765,798, and that's for the administration, the implementation, the marketing, all those costs that ICF will be putting into the project. And then, again, the rebates, which is a little over $9 million. Let's see what else. It looks like, too, that their pricing, their labor rates on the current contract will remain will be fixed for the first year of this new contract, and then we will allow for a 3% increase for the remaining 4 years. But on just as a note, they are, let's see, the new contract contains an expansion of the program, which includes about 70% additional hours than we were getting in the current contract. And so with them holding their labor rates for the first year fixed and then allowing the small increase of the 3%, it offsets the additional hours or the percentage of work that they're going to actually be putting into it. This is going to take a lot more work from this vendor than what they were giving us to begin with. So we have deemed that more than reasonable, and it looks like JEA expects a 27% average annual growth rate over the duration of the 5 years. And then JEA also has incorporated service level agreements that places 5% of ICS fees at risk. Sorry, I had a call coming in, for failure to deliver prescribed growth milestones. So we've got some of the risk has been built in here for them to perform from a KPI standpoint. So I will pause and ask if there are any questions on this one. And if the business wants to chime in, you guys can probably much more eloquently state what it is that they're doing or expanding if the committee has any questions.
Jenny, this is Wayne. I do have a question that focuses on implementation. I think it's a fantastic program to be engaged in, and everything is clear. But with respect to implementation, reading through the description, I have an understanding of what that entails, but I still have a question focused on the infrastructure to support this. Is that a part of the implementation process that this company is going to actually provide in the way of structured building, or is it just more of marketing? And where will that cost come from? Build stations, et cetera.
Thanks, Wayne. I'll ask Vicki Nichols, do you want to comment on that, or someone from your team?
Hi, Jenny. Yeah, thank you. Hi, Wayne. I appreciate that question. I have myself and Tim Lee on the phone. Tim Lee is my strategic segment manager over electrification. But to answer your question, these are more engineering services, and these are very, very long sales processes in commercial and industrial. So the cost there is largely feet on the ground, highly educated engineering services that are working with these industrial and commercial customer teams to assess the facilities as a base and then make recommendations for electro technologies that are custom to each customer. So they're long processes, they're engineering intensive, and most of that cost is not in hard materials, it's in soft materials, except for monitoring equipment that we'll have on facilities to help create this engineering study.
Okay, so it's fair to say that there's another component of the overall program where we will actually establish the equipment usage, i.e. like with recharging stations, that process, and then you have to have the physical element of the recharging station itself put in place. So is that another component or element of that's the next test once we gather all this information?
Yes, we will make the recommendation for the equipment. We will help them procure the equipment, and then we will stay with them through the installation. We don't oversee the installation, of course, but we oversee and provide assistance as needed from the beginning of the business plan to the company to the end of installation. But once the companies procure it, they pretty much take it from there. We'll come back and do engineering studies post to measure the load that we have gained to make sure it aligns with our business plan. Does that answer your question?
It does. Thanks.
You're welcome.
All right. Are there any other questions for Vicki or any of the other team members?
Jenny, it's Jeff.
Hey, Jeff.
Just for the benefit of the group, as was mentioned, Bruce Dugan presented this item in the August JEA board meeting, and there's a projected spend, assuming it matches this $15.8 million as part of the presentation, and the board was very positively influenced by the presentation and was in full support. So just to add that for the record as well. And again, that was the August 2020 JEA board meeting.
Thanks, Joe. Any other questions? All right. I think, Vicki, do you want to take a moment to kind of talk about the growth in the revenue, what we're expecting by 2025? I think that's a really important piece of this, and I don't think we've touched on that, but I'd like to, just so the committee is aware of what that looks like.
I would love to. Thank you. I can't tell you how excited we are, committee, about this project. This is a real opportunity for JEA to pivot to growth. And over the next 5 years, we have been in this market for 4.5 years. Now we're able to expand it tremendously. These are emerging markets. That's why we don't have a lot of varied vendors with deep expertise. So in partnership with this vendor, they are the market leader, and they gave us a long business case, a low, mid, and high business opportunities. This is a mid case that will yield $72 million net present value over the next 5 years. We've got an energy value of 1937 gigawatt hours, and they are this is a huge incremental jump from our previous program, although our previous program was pretty much focused on low-hanging fruit, the term in the industry. The opportunities were readily accessible. This is still an emerging market and new. We'll be able to attract, load. We're going to have to go a little deeper for it this time, as we will in the next 5 years after this. But it is an exceptionally high yield on revenue for JEA, one of the vehicles for the future that will help bridge some of our revenue gaps. And it has a longer life cycle than even these 5 years. The equipment itself has about a 10-year net present value of life cycle cost. And this market is expected to continue after the next 5 years. So $72 million net present value immediately upon this contract. We expect this to grow even after that. So as good as this is, we're just getting started. If you have a moment, Tim Lee, would you like to comment, since you've spent so much time with me on this the last year?
Yeah, sure. Thanks, Vicki. I think I'll take the other tact away from JEA and say what I'm passionate about is this is a way to help our community. And I think specific examples maybe resonate a little clearer. So take, for example, Jacksport expansion. The phase 1 included 3 sky cranes, which basically doubled or tripled the ability for the port to offload cargo from ships. And in our phase 2 plans, we're looking at 6 more of these sky cranes, which obviously will not only help the local economy, it means jobs. And the aspect of this program, we tend to focus on the kilowatt hours, and most of the load, by the way, is off-peak. But I think there's an equally compelling value for the economic growth that these projects will bring to our customers. And then it takes about 2 million metric tons of CO2 gas out of our local air. So it's clean, it's growth, and I hope that we'll be able to do some marketing and advertising around the impact 3 to 5 years from now.
Thank you, Tim. Just an overall, I think, win here for JEA, and you guys have done an amazing job, working with my group, with Nathan, to negotiate this and to, bring this to the community. So thank you. I appreciate that. Do you guys have any other questions?
Jenny, Joe Orfano, reviewing the board materials in this package, could you go back on the summary write-up? It referred to $72 million of revenue. That should be net present NPV revenue. I don't think that was clear in the write-up.
Yeah, so there's a change of terms. On the original 72, we looked at a 10-year life of equipment when in reality, a lot of this electric technology will be in place for 15 years. So that's why the 87 is higher.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe we just, but I think if you go back to the write-up, it did not refer to NPV. So that was my comment.
Yeah, you're right, Joe. That's a difference.
Come on, I'm a finance guy. That's what I do.
Thank you.
But well done. Again, it's extremely well received by the board, and an opportunity for new revenue that we haven't had previously, and carbon free, as Tim pointed out. These are wins for JEA and for the community, as both Vicki and Tim have pointed out. So again, well done.
Thank you, Joe. Thank you. I do want to include everyone. So many of you have supported this for many years. So thank you for it. This is absolutely a team deployment. It's the right decision to make for JEA, and you all and your support and your vision have helped us get to this point. Thank you very much. It's been a year of education throughout our company and throughout our marketplace. And Jenny, thank you for your expertise. You have been such a resource for us too through this last month getting this ready. Thank you, you and Nathan. Appreciate it.
You're welcome. Nathan did all the hard lifting. He gets the credit. All right. Any other questions? Okay, so I'm going to just make an attempt right here for whoever does the motion. There are two things I heard that we want to update. So the two things that we'll update to this award before it goes to Paul for approval will be the end date, and we'll make that September 30th of 2025, and then we will add the net present value after the $72 million in the actual write-up to make that more clear, Joe. So if I can get a motion.
Jenny, Joe, or should that be changed to 87 for Tim's comment? Because he's showing a higher number based on a 15-year. Hey, we might as well go with full disclosure here.
I will leave that to the business expertise to tell me. Do we need to update it to 87 to show is that the net present value?
Yeah, and Vicki helped me on this. I think the 72 was part of ICF's performance component, but that may not be correct. The ROI is significant with either number. If Joe's happy with the larger, I'm happy too.
I guess to be consistent with the board package did say 72 million NPV, so I'm fine with that, knowing that there's upside. It's still a big number, so
I prefer to keep it. Thank you, Joe. I would prefer to keep it consistent with the board. This is a number we've gone back and forth on because the higher number does include the first phase, this being phase 2. Let's just go with 72. I'm sorry for that oversight. That is a valid number, and let's make that consistent. Thank you.
Okay. So do we have a motion? Does someone want to make a motion?
Joe Orfano, so moved.
Okay, Joe. So do you want to, real quick, Joe, do you want to, make a motion with the update?
So as amended to indicate 72 million in net present value savings, and Nathan indicated that change has been made. So that's the amended motion.
And the new end date of September 30th, 2025.
The new end date of September 30th, 2025.
Perfect. All right. Can I get a second?
Alan, second.
Thanks, Alan. All right. So I'll do a roll call to approve award number 9. to update the end date to September 30th, 2025, and add net present value after our $72 million. And I'll roll call that through the committee, starting with Joe Arfano.
Approved.
Alan McRoy.
Approved.
Stephen Datz.
Approved.
Wayne Young.
Approved.
And Steve Tootin.
Approved.
All right, thank you. One last one. Award number 10, this was an invitation to negotiate, and this is for our investment consulting services for our employee retirement benefits plan, which includes our JEA 457 deferred compensation plan, the JEA 401A defined contribution plan, and the St. Johns River Power Park System Employees Retirement Plan. And just as a note, there are 2 JEA committees with fiduciary oversight responsibility for these plans. We had quite a bit of competition here. We ended up getting 10 responses, which is incredible. Great job. And Morgan Stanley and Company LLC was the recommended awardee at $300,000. This covers a 5-year period. And then we do have 2 one-year optional renewals. We shortlisted from 10 to 3, so Gallagher, Morgan Stanley, and NFP were shortlisted, with Morgan Stanley coming out on top as the highest responsive and responsible respondent. So not only did we look at the rates, but we looked at staff experience, company experience, and design approach. When looking at our current contract, we are seeing a 4% savings of about $12,500 over the 5 years, but we will take it. Whether it is small or large, we count it all. So I will stop and see if you guys have any questions, but this was a good outcome for JEA, quite a bit of competition, and we're paying lower rates. So I think this is an overall great award for JEA.
Jenny, Joe Arfano again. Sorry. But for full disclosure, I chair the Power Park Employees Retirement Plan committee, and I also sit on the 401A 457 committee. I don't know if that creates a conflict for me to vote on this. I guess I would raise that with OGC.
Yes, David Miggett with the Office of General Counsel. Would your vote today, could it potentially affect what's called a special private gain? Based on your vote today, could you wind up receiving more money or potentially less money than you otherwise would as a result of that vote?
No.
Then you don't, one of the, I think the key aspect of potential voting conflict at play, based on what you said, would be a special private gain. And based on what you just said, I don't see a special private gain at issue here. So,
thanks, David. And we do act in a fiduciary role, but I participate, as do most of our employees, in the 401A and 457 plans, but I don't benefit any differently than any other participant in those plans. But I just wanted to raise that for full disclosure.
Exactly. So I think there's no voting conflict here, but thank you for bringing that up.
Thank you.
Thank you, Joe. Any other comments?
Jenny, this is Stephen. Just in regard to the BAFO results, was that a surprise to see them all come in exactly the same?
I would say that that's not typical.
Jenny, this is Chrissy through the chair. It was kind of just happenstance. It doesn't usually happen that way. It just, in this case, it just happened to occur.
Okay, thank you.
It's a good round number.
Yeah, I guess so.
It's also all of our current contracts are, public record. If people do ask for public records and they try to be competitive and beat what we currently have, that could take part in how they make their decisions. But really, like Chrissy said, this was just quite an interesting happenstance, and typically you don't see that. David, were you going to say something?
Yeah, just a question for clarification for the board's behalf. And you referenced this briefly. I believe you said Morgan Stanley rated higher in some other aspects. Can you verify and confirm that those aspects were part of the specifications and scoring criteria of the ICN?
They were. Correct. Do you want to go to the matrix and just give the committee a quick view of that? So we'll go out to bid. We'll put our selection criteria and what we're going to score on in the solicitation, and they when we give it to our team to score, they will take all of those things into consideration, and we give them a matrix to fill out. But yes, it was all included. Are there any other questions or comments? I don't know if Lynn can get to the.
Jenny,
we have the matrix as the backup.
One more comment. Greystone has been a long time consultant for the plan, and they are an affiliate of Morgan Stanley. Morgan Stanley is part of our bank group, but that does not weigh into any of the considerations, any of these scoring criteria. So that should be made part of the record as well, that they are a bank of JEA, but we're given no extra consideration for that fact.
Thanks, Joe.
And Pat Malis.
Hey, Jenny, this is Elaine. I did not attach the evaluation matrix. I just have the response form there, but we did evaluate on all the different criteria, David.
I see Pat Malis is, if there are any additional questions regarding the scoring criteria and result, Pat Malis, I believe, is on the WebEx as well.
Sure. Can you guys hear me okay?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Good morning, everybody. This is Pat. Yes, David, just so you know, there was a pretty extensive list of about 30 questions that we asked relative to this particular contract and the consultative services for benefits that we were seeking. And each of those questions were rated independently, and then it was an aggregate statistical score at the end that factored into the individual's expertise that they brought to the table, as well with consulting experience and prior experience in this field of employee benefits consulting.
Thank you for the clarification.
As I'm talking on mute, I'm so sorry. Do we have any other questions or comments? All right, can we get a motion to approve award number 10?
Stephen Dat's motion to approve.
Steve Tooten, second.
Thanks. The Steves are rounding us out. All right, so I'll do a roll call through the committee. Stephen Datz?
Approved.
Steve Tooten?
Approved.
Wayne Young?
Approved.
Joe Arfano?
Approved.
And lastly, but certainly not least, Alan McRoy.
Approved.
Thank you. All right, so we have reviewed award items 1 through 10, and they have been individually reviewed and approved by the committee. So our entire agenda for the September 24th, 2020 meeting has been approved. Is there any other business to come before the awards committee?
Jenny, yes, Steve Tooten. Question about next week's meeting, because I know after the awards committee we have the Sunshine Law training, and I know it's kind of for the people who are like the add-ons, like in out of our different business groups, is there going to be any kind of like email going out to say, okay, we advise you come on at like 11:20 a.m. or something like that? So.
That's a great question. So the way Lynn set it up is we anticipate we're going to give us an hour for awards. If we run a little over, that would be okay. But she set up 2 different meetings so that we can conclude our first one and then have the Sunshine Law review and training on the second, and has included all of the other attendees on the second invite.
Very good.
So we'll try to separate them. If we run over, it's, we've got plenty of time between the 2 hours. We can finish up and then we can conclude and move to the other invite.
Excellent. Thank you.
You're welcome. So thank you for bringing that up. So we do look forward to OGC taking us through that training. Any of the attendees that you guys have given us, we've included. If there are others that want to participate and join that are on this call today, you guys may do so. It's just going to be an overview to the committee on our sunshine laws. Are there any other comments or questions before we adjourn? All right. We're adjourned. Have a great rest of the week. Be safe this weekend, and I will see you guys next week.
Thanks, Jenny.
You too.
Thank you.